I see a company like DEM is very important, can contribute a piece of that independence for the German downstream industry, which others should follow. And hopefully we find more countries like Argentina, which are very eager to cooperate with Europe.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Digby founder and CEO Jamie Strauss, as well as Deutsche E-Metals CEO Dr. Mischa Zauner. Jamie, Mischa, very good to see you today. And Mischa, I'm going to start with you. To what extent has the second Digby assessment helped DEM both strategically and with regard to the engagement with different stakeholders?
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for having me. Yeah, well, personally, I'm myself very proud of having that Digby assessment realized the second time. So we could improve from last year's rating from B to BB, which shows our dedication to the ESG goals. And at the same time, we were also doing an ISO 9001 certificate here in Germany, which shows our dedication to quality management, which I think is a very important measurement in our development of the corporate goals of DEM. And since we founded the company in 2021, we had always the idea that ESG is part of our DNA. So we wanted to show that both in the project, like we're going to talk about in the next few minutes about a Karachi Blanco project in Argentina, where we implement those ESG measurements and at the same time, the corporate management. So it was important for us not only talking about ESG, but also doing ESG. So the assessment helped us already in last year in 23 when we did a first assessment to show what we already have achieved in our exploration, early stage exploration in the project, and what is still lacking. So it helps us to guide our team, our staff in Argentina in the Lithium Brine project, but also showing our investors that the money and trust that they put into us is well allocated, and the same for the off-takers. So the fact that we are based in Germany shows that we would like to sell our raw material to the German industry, and the German downstream industry has a big, let's say, requirement on ESG goals and very high standards. And the Digby assessment in general is helping us to fulfill those requirements and maybe even overachieving them. And on the other hand, regarding your question to the stakeholders, we also can show and prove in a transparent manner with the ESG report that we publish to our stakeholders in Argentina, the project neighbors, the local communities, the authorities, that we are really trying to achieve as much as possible regarding the ESG governance. Yeah, in general, it helps us a lot to prove the way that we started with setting up the company 3 years ago, and also to improve as much as possible regards ESG. And a third very important point, in my opinion, is really the German Mining Fund, which is ready to be published this year. It's about 1 billion on critical raw materials project to help the German downstream industry. And by the help of our ESG assessment, we can also show to the mining fund that we take ESG serious, and that we have already in that early project stage, which currently is pre-resource and exploration, showed our dedication to fulfill those goals.
Following on from the assessment, what goals do you set for the next 12 months, and how do you see these adding value from the perspective of investors, communities, and also other stakeholders, Mischa?
So yeah, for the next 12 months, it's an extremely exciting time for us. It's a very decisive time, let's say. We just started to mobilize our drill rig. We applied last year for or we submitted last year the environmental impact assessment. We got this approved recently, so we're ready to drill. We have all the approvals. We have the second ESG assessment from Digby as well. So once the rig will start drilling in the next few weeks, we're gonna see what's the value of the asset. We're gonna have the first brine samples. We're gonna have the grades. We're gonna start on the metallurgical work, maybe, or mainly a DLE, what we're looking for. So this is very decisive in a project development point of view, but also in the ESG point of view, since starting drilling is the first, let's say, invasive exploration method that we're doing, besides the geophysics and all the geology we've done in the last 2 years. So we are very engaged with the communities. I just came back with my team from a 3-week trip to the field to engage with the communities where we're gonna drill with the landowners and so on. So this is part of the next 12 months is the drilling, and then hiring the local workforce to do the drilling. So we're gonna hire and train local people as drillers, as helpers, as logistics staff. So this is really having as much local workforce as possible available there. We're gonna use the local infrastructure, the existing infrastructure, which is a big pro for our project because we won't build a camp, which the locals don't like that much. And the other part of the next 12 months would be, looking, depending on the drilling results and the sampling results, looking into the extraction method. So we are looking into DLE, direct lithium extraction. We have a few partners already lined up doing R&D with us to develop our customized DLE technology. And the goal is to avoid as much as possible the use of fresh water and also use renewables. So the target is to get premium offtake contracts with the German downstream industry, mainly the automotive industry, which has big demand in lithium or in critical raw materials in general, and also already visited our project a few times. So there's quite big interest. And besides that, we were also the only German company being invited by Chancellor Scholz last year to visit South America. So it shows on a political level that the ESG certificate helped, and the next 12 months are gonna be really decisive in delivering our promises and in delivering the first technical reports.
You mentioned the German downstream industry. Could you give us your view on the German energy transition and the dependence on critical metal imports?
Yeah, exactly. That's something what I already touched on with the new, let's say, political interest in critical raw materials and in partnerships. So what happens in Germany is that there's a big energy transition happening, and it's a big controversy in politics. And based on that energy transition, there's a huge demand on certain critical raw materials as lithium, rare earths, and others. And the fact is that Germany has a great disconnect. So there's the massive downstream industry, huge demand, and mainly from the automotive industry, from e-mobility. But there's a huge reliance on imports. And we, especially as Deutsche E-Metals, we see there's a huge demand in Germany to set up an ecosystem of junior mining companies, to have the way or a possibility to allocate capital into early stage mining projects, and looking for those either in Europe but also worldwide in like-minded country to make sure that we don't run into the same risk as we did with the energy crisis with Russia, and we can rely on partner countries. And that's why I see a company like DEM is very important, can contribute a piece of that independence for the German downstream industry, which others should follow. And hopefully we find more countries like Argentina, which are very eager to cooperate with Europe and have long-term agreements for investment.
Jamie, the landscape of sustainability continues to evolve rapidly. How do you see companies such as DEM differentiating themselves, taking advantage of their efforts to improve transparency and set out a journey of continuous improvement?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Look, I think if you look at any mining project, you've got to find a resource, you've got to develop that, finance it, and get it into production. And the modern world really relates down to responsible operations. And how does that management team get on top of understanding what responsibility means, coming from the corporate all the way down through to the project? Misha touched on a number of areas of both social and environmental impact that they have locally with the local village in terms of DLE, the aridity or the lack of water in the area, and how do they effectively bring this, have a minimal impact, so that they can effectively then demonstrate that responsibility. And Argentina's just joined the Mineral Security Partnership, which Germany is already part of. How can we provide the necessary raw materials and critical minerals in order to minimize the risk of energy problems, but also balance the geopolitical imbalances at the moment with regards to the supply chain? And groups such as DEM have really excel and put themselves out there in terms of getting this going right at the beginning of their life cycle, so that their social license to operate is in place, so that they are fully aware of the challenges and the risks that they have in terms of developing this, so that they give the confidence to the financial groups when they come in to finance this group, and ultimately, therefore, well set up so that they've got a sustainable operation, so that the off-takers have the confidence then to either give premiums or to give preferred status, whatever it may be, when it comes down to providing offtakes in the future. So it's a new era of investment. It's a new era of mining communication. And Deutsche Metall and Misha and his team are really ahead of the curve on this. And I think not only leading, but also setting themselves up really well for a long-term exciting future.
Well, Misha, congratulations on that second assessment. Jens, thank you both very much for your insights today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Stephen.
Cheers.
That's Digby founder and CEO Jamie Strauss, Deutsche E-Metall CEO Dr. Misha Zauner.